The GameCube delivered a stellar library of exclusives that gamers have cherished for decades now. Most of those games found new life on later platforms through remasters, HD ports, remakes, or even official emulation. However, there's a surprising number of quality, memorable exclusives that remain trapped on the GameCube to this day. These are fantastic games that you can only play officially if you have them on a physical GameCube disc. A few quick caveats before we start. Yes, you can play GameCube games on backwards compatible Wii models, but you'll still need the original GameCube discs. And yes, obviously you can play GameCube games on third-party emulators, but this video focuses only on official releases on official hardware. Also, please share any games you think belong on this list in the comments. I'll include a list in the description of some great but disqualified exclusives that have since appeared on other systems. With all that out of the way, please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video, and let's count down the 10 best exclusives still trapped on GameCube, plus maybe an honorable mention at the end. So flying in at number 10 is Star Fox Assault, a bold, divisive entry in the franchise that launched to mixed reviews back in 2005. Despite its flaws, I've always had a soft spot for this game. It's a prime example of great ideas hampered by mediocre execution. At its best, Star Fox Assault delivers frantic, high-energy action through a hybrid of third-person shooting and classic vehicle combat. The mission structure was ambitious for the time. Fox could fight on foot, pilot the Landmaster tank, or soar through the skies in his iconic R-Wing, sometimes switching between them on the fly. That kind of dynamic gameplay had real potential, and I still think it's a framework worth revisiting. Unfortunately, the game stumbles with bland mission design, clunky controls, and a very short campaign, just 10 missions that can be cleared in 3 or 4 hours, even on your first run. Still, when the pieces all click, the game is enjoyable. The R-Wing only missions in particular recapture much of that classic Star Fox magic. Anyway, I'd love to see Nintendo take another swing at this formula. With modern hardware, refined controls, and smarter mission design, the core ideas here could soar to new heights. Storming onto the list in 9th place, we have Battalion Wars, and it's no coincidence it lands right next to Star Fox Assault. Battalion Wars is also a third-person action game brimming with great ideas and uneven execution. But overall, I'd argue it's the more polished experience. Released as a 3D real-time companion to the turn-based Advanced Wars series, Battalion Wars drops you onto a colorful battlefield where you command and control infantry, vehicles, and aircraft across a couple dozen missions or so. The game leans into a Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic with bright visuals, exaggerated characters, and a story that's serviceable, if occasionally grating thanks to cheesy dialogue and voice acting. Still, the unit variety and mission diversity give it a distinct charm. Where Battalion Wars loses ground is in its control scheme. It somehow manages to feel both too simple and overly convoluted. Giving orders to individual units can be a real chore, but issuing more strategic commands to your squad also leaves something to be desired. That said, most missions don't demand surgical precision, so a willingness to lose a few troops to the chaos will usually get the job done. Despite its quirks, the game was well received enough to earn a sequel on the Wii, and I think that speaks to its underlying appeal. Battalion Wars may not be a tactical masterpiece, but it's a fun, ambitious experiment that deserves a fighting spot on the list. Pulling into the station at number 8, we have the original Animal Crossing. This one might be a bit controversial. The series technically began on the region-locked, Japanese-only N64 release Dobutsu no Mori. However, the game was significantly reworked and expanded before being released internationally on the GameCube as Animal Crossing. Since only the enhanced GameCube experience was made available worldwide, and it's significantly different, I'm counting it as valid for this list. This cozy GameCube exclusive wasn't about saving the world or defeating enemies. It was about building a cozy community in a quiet village filled with talking animal neighbors. Gameplay is open-ended and surprisingly addictive. You move into town, buy a house, and spend your days fishing, catching bugs, planting trees, digging up fossils, and decorating your home. The clock runs alongside real-world time, meaning seasons change, holidays arrive, and your village evolves whether you're playing or not. The presentation was charming and deceptively deep. The visuals were colorful and cozy, the soundtrack shifted with the hour of the day, and every villager had a distinct personality. Even the smallest details, letters in the mailbox, getting bitten by mosquitoes, or visiting the turnip market, created a sense of living, breathing routine. Animal Crossing created a memorable, new kind of experience, a game about slowing down, connecting with neighbors, and finding joy in the everyday, even before social media took over society. For many players, it wasn't just a game, it was a second home, one that's still worth revisiting. Finishing in 7th place is Mario Kart Double Dash, arguably the most underappreciated entry in the entire franchise. Double Dash shifted gears by adding a second racer to each kart, doubling both the fun and the chaos. The result is a game with uniquely frantic energy. Karts careen around corners with a slippery, almost unpredictable feel until you get used to it. The controls are tougher to pick up than most Mario Kart titles, but once mastered, Double Dash offers perhaps the most distinctive driving experience in the series. Where the game falls short of legendary status is in its structure. With just 4 cups of 4 tracks each, plus local multiplayer and battle mode, the content does feel very limited. A few more tracks or an additional unique mode could have given it a stronger identity. And while Double Dash looked and played great on the GameCube, it was soon overshadowed by Mario Kart DS, which introduced online play, mission mode, expanded kart variety, and classic tracks, all on a handheld system. Still, Double Dash remains a chaotic, colorful ride that stands out for its unique mechanics and memorable feel. At number 6 is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, the franchise's first foray into full 3D and an essential strategy game for the GameCube. Path of Radiance delivered everything fans could hope for in a generational leap: a deep, character-driven story, complex mission design, and a massive cast with diverse classes, abilities, and tactical options. It's a focused experience, 28 missions, almost no gameplay filler, punctuated only by narrative beats and expressive 2D character art. This is 3D Fire Emblem at its most essential by today's standards. And despite its age, that clarity of design keeps it surprisingly playable today. It's also the rarest title on this list. Even used copies in good condition can run upwards of $200 or even $300, a testament to its enduring value and a strong case for a modern port. That said, Path of Radiance isn't flawless. A few mechanics allow players to exploit progression systems and sort of hack their way through missions with overpowered units. And while the 3D visuals were a technical step forward for the franchise, the battle maps themselves aren't always the most visually compelling. Still, Path of Radiance stands out as a successful evolution of the Fire Emblem formula, one that deserves to be preserved and made available to a wider audience. Emerging from the shadows of number 5, we have Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. In the quiet halls of a spooky mansion, the protagonist Alexandra uncovers a mystery that ties into her family's tragic past. What begins as an investigation into her grandfather's murder quickly spirals into a journey through time itself as she discovers the Tome of Eternal Darkness, a dark book chronicling humanity's encounters with ancient beings. Each chapter of the book transports you into the life of a different character across history. From Roman centurions and medieval monks to World War I journalists and more modern archaeologists, you take on different roles in the fight against the ancients. This anthology structure weaves together many protagonists, each adding a piece to the puzzle until Alexandra herself must face the final confrontation. Gameplay blends third-person exploration, combat, and a magic system built on runes and spellcraft. But what truly sets Eternal Darkness apart is its sanity meter. As characters witness different horrors, their grip on reality slips, and so does the players. The game breaks the fourth wall with hallucinations, fake error screens, sudden volume drops, and even illusions of death that make you, the player, not just Alexandra, question what's real. This blend of memorable storytelling and unique sanity effects created an experience that still feels unique today. At number 4, we have Rogue Squadron 2: Rogue Leader, a launch title that felt like a playable Star Wars movie. Taking the roles of Luke Skywalker and Wedge Antilles, Players relive iconic battles across the original trilogy, from the Death Star trench run to the Battle of Endor. Gameplay is fast-paced and cinematic, with various ships to pilot, complete with cockpit views and squad commands that make you feel in charge of the mission. Each craft handles a little bit differently, creating replay value and tactical depth. What truly set Rogue Leader apart, though, at the time was its presentation. Each mission is set in a stunning environment, whether in outer space or above the surface of impressive-looking planets. Some levels even perfectly recapture scenarios from the original films. The stunning visuals pushed the GameCube to its limits, while John Williams' epic score and authentic sound effects make every dogfight feel ripped straight from the films. It was a technical showcase that successfully captured the thrill of being in a Star Wars movie and proved the GameCube could deliver cinematic spectacle.
This is Snake. Colonel, can you hear me?
Sneaking its way to number 3 is Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. An enhanced remake of the original PlayStation 1 classic, Twin Snakes retells Solid Snake's mission on Shadow Moses Island, infiltrating a nuclear facility, rescuing hostages, and facing battles of espionage and ideology. Admittedly, I was debating whether to include this one on the list because it is a remake, meaning you could technically play the original version on another system. However, this reimagined GameCube version of the experience was never made available on any other system after its release, so I think it still qualifies here. To this day, it's arguably the definitive version of Metal Gear Solid, yet it can only be played on the GameCube. Gameplay combines the cinematic stealth of the original with mechanics borrowed from Metal Gear Solid 2. Players can aim in first person, have greater mobility, and have to contend with smarter enemy AI, making infiltration more dynamic than ever. Iconic boss fights are reimagined with these new systems, blending nostalgia with more modernized gameplay. The presentation was a huge leap forward at the time. The game was rebuilt with GameCube-level graphics, re-recorded dialogue, and dramatically directed cutscenes. These sequences leaned into stylized, action-heavy choreography, giving Snake's battles a more cinematic flair while still preserving the original story. Though some fans debated the over-the-top cutscenes, the Twin Snakes remains memorable as a bold reinterpretation of a classic. It captured the essence of Metal Gear Solid while showcasing the GameCube's technical power, offering players a chance to relive the experience with fresh visuals, refined mechanics, and a new cinematic edge. In second place, we have Star Fox Adventures. This seems to be a love or hate game for most people, but I think it's awesome. It was one of my favorite games as a kid. Star Fox Adventures was a bold departure for the series, for the most part trading space battles for a full-on action-adventure quest. It controversially put players in the role of Fox McCloud, not in the cockpit of an R-Wing, but rather on foot to explore the lush world of Dinosaur Planet. Gameplay blends Zelda-style exploration with combat, puzzles, and staff-based abilities. Yes, this game had outer space, dinosaurs, magic, interesting worlds, you name it, a dream combination for some players. The presentation is truly striking for the time. The game showcased vibrant environments, expressive character models with convincing fur effects, and a sweeping score that gave Dinosaur Planet a cinematic feel. It's easily one of the GameCube's most visually ambitious and beautiful titles, showcasing developer Rare's technical artistry in full force. I think even just a simple HD port of this game would still look fine today. It was that amazing. I hope we someday see a re-release of this niche classic. Though fans were divided at the time, some missing the classic space combat, Star Fox Adventures remains memorable as a unique experiment. It first expanded the Star Fox universe beyond vehicle combat, delivering a colorful, story-driven adventure that stood out in the GameCube's library. And finally, smashing its way to victory, we have Super Smash Bros. Melee. Melee wasn't just a sequel, it was arguably the game that defined the GameCube, and it's almost poetic that it's still trapped on that mini-disc. Released right after launch in 2001, it took the crossover fighting formula of the original on N64 and expanded it into one of the most beloved multiplayer experiences of all time. Gameplay is fast, chaotic, and endlessly replayable. With a huge roster of characters from across Nintendo's history, Melee felt like a celebration of gaming at the time, a torch later entries continued to carry, culminating in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Stages pulled from iconic worlds, items added unpredictability, and more advanced, subtle mechanics gave competitive players incredible depth. The presentation was fast and fluid. Melee's visuals offered solid character models and vibrant arenas, while its soundtrack remixed classic Nintendo themes into sweeping arrangements. Casual players loved the party chaos, while competitive players built an entire esports niche around its speed and precision. Even decades later, Melee remains one of the most enduring fighting games ever made, a title that turned the GameCube into a stage for Nintendo's greatest icons to battle it out. Now before we wrap up, a couple quick honorable mentions. Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike recaptures some of what made Rogue Squadron 2 so treasured: chaotic dogfights across intense missions, incredible audio and visuals, and some of the tightest flight controls on the GameCube. Unfortunately, the game also introduced terrible on-foot missions that have aged very poorly. With clunky controls, dull objectives, and awkward camera work, these segments significantly drag down the overall experience, and you're better off just playing its predecessor. Wave Race Blue Storm features some of the most incredible water effects of the generation. Even today, it's impressive to watch and feel how the different wave heights and water behavior dynamically impact gameplay and control. However, Blue Storm is let down by its simplistic structure. There's only a handful of courses and limited modes, which can make the game feel more like a launch tech demo for the hardware instead of a full-sized game. The difficulty and progression are also somewhat uneven on higher modes, and the game doesn't do the best job of leaning players into the experience. So what are your thoughts on this list? Which games would you replace, and with what? Or how would you reorder this list? Please hit those like and subscribe buttons, leave a comment below with your thoughts, and let's discuss.